All right, welcome back to the conference room with Mark S. Lee, 313-778-7600. And we're going to segue and talk about a major organization that's doing some great things here in Detroit. But before we do that, I just want to make it clear one more time. You know, today's show is really about providing information. It's providing information as we do each and every single week. And so if you miss any part of the show at 1 o'clock when we go off the air, you can certainly pull down the show, go to the end of the conference room with Mark S. Lee on the station's Facebook page. You'll see it. Just pull it down. You can scroll ahead, scroll back. Any information that you may have missed, feel free. You can stop and just write it down or listen to the interview, whatever you want to hear. Or you can do that for any one of your favorite hosts. And want you to know we all appreciate you tuning in each and every single week. And again, I'm waving at you as I do each and every single week on Facebook Live. We know we have people tuning in from across the country and across the globe. We appreciate all of you as well. All right, we talk about making a difference. Well, I want to talk about a business that's really making a difference here in Detroit. And I have two very special guests in the studio with me. I have Mr. Bruce Smith, and he's the owner, chairman, CEO of DMS Manufacturing. We'll find out what that is. But he's a manufacturing industry expert with over 30 years of proven experience in building superior teams, increasing profitability, and accelerating growth consistently and substantially improving his business value at every organization that he leads. And he currently leads Detroit Manufacturing Systems, a large-scale component manufacturer for global brands with over 1,500 team members here in Detroit, over $1 billion in annual revenue. Also, Mr. Scott Cieslak is an accomplished business leader with over 26 years of Tier 1 automotive experience. He has developed broad expertise in strategic planning, operational excellence, financial leadership, and talent development as well. Bruce and Scott, thanks for joining me in the conference room.
Thanks, Mark. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. All right, glad to have you. We have a special guest in the studio as well, Scott.
Absolutely, we do. We have my son, Connor Cieslak. He's over here taking some pictures of us, building up his reputation. He's a fifth-year senior at College for Creative Studies, photography major. So he's out here building his brand.
Well, make sure you take the good side.
Since Connor's not on camera, I want to assure everybody he's much, much better looking than his father.
and that's a high standard.
and I want to say, I think he's much younger than his dad.
Much younger.
All right. Well, first of all, this is going to be an awesome conversation. And here's why. A lot of times we think of organizations, we think of big organizations, and it can be somewhat, faceless, and they're always focused on the bottom line. But and that's part of this business. I get it. But the other part of this conversation is talk about making a difference, which is what I talked about before the break. So, Bruce Smith, let me start with you. Who is DMS?
Yeah, first of all, DMS is a build-to-print assembly house, and we're backward integrated into injection molding, where we have roughly 33 injection molding presses up to 2,500 tons, so some relatively large presses. As you mentioned earlier, 1,500 employees, and we're predominantly serving the automotive industry, but frankly, we're agnostic to what industry we serve because our strategy is what we call a horizontal one, where we're able to assemble a multitude of products. So to that end, we are making some inroads into defense and government contracting, as well as into the industrial market. For example, we're doing prototypes now for Amazon. So we can assemble anything. If someone else has a design and brings it to us, we can put it together in a high-velocity, very accurate assembly system and deliver it on time at great quality every time because of our wonderful people and our sound systems.
And talk to us about the historical perspective of the organization. How did you get from where it was a few years ago to where you are today?
Yeah, I came into DMS as the majority owner in 2018, but the company started in 2012 by Andre Rush, who had a joint venture with Forcia, who is now known as Forvia, a French headquartered global automotive supplier. And when it started in 2012, it's my understanding that it was the largest addition of new jobs in the city of Detroit since the mid-1970s. So we're proud of our footprint and happy to be in a neighborhood where we're providing job opportunities that aren't really plentiful. And so we love that we're helping underserved folks in the community.
And I got to tell you, Bruce is humble. So I'm going to say this because you were just awarded the Ernst & Young, right, Entrepreneur of the Year Award. One of 10 awards.
One of 10.
One of
Absolutely.
10.
One of 10 or 11.
And Scott, talk to us about the significance of that award.
As a employee of DMS, it's significant for us because it showcases, what a great leader we have in our organization. The style and the type of leadership that he brings is recognized by others in the industry and outside of the industry. I know Bruce is very humble, so this was forcing him to get out there and do this, and he did not have any interest in doing it, but he did it for the purpose of growing DMS. He really does it for the people. He doesn't do it for himself. I remember you and I were having a conversation. You said, Scott, I don't want to do this. I don't need another award. I don't need any more recognition. And I said, Bruce, look, you need to do this. You have to see yourself as you're doing this for the people of DMS. When the awards were being announced, there was a key phrase that was brought up, and it was specifically around the words were servant leadership. As soon as we heard those words sitting at the table, we knew that was Bruce who was getting the award. He not only does he communicate that on a regular basis, that's how he leads. He's in my view the epitome of a servant leader.
And let's talk about, because I want to clarify as well, this is for Detroit and Northwest Ohio.
That's
I believe.
correct.
Is that correct? And if you want to check it out, it's been published. It's in Crane's Detroit Business, the Detroit newspapers. To find out, you can just Google it. I mean, there's a distinguished list of leaders running organizations, making a difference. This guy, I want to stick with you because you mentioned his leadership style.
Yep.
And how would you describe Bruce's leadership style?
Bruce is a coach. He's a mentor. He's a servant leader. He really allows his teams to be the best versions of themselves in every day. Leads through trust, love, accountability. Style very collaborative and employee focused. Wants to make sure the bottom line is achieved. We can do more good works by doing good work. He truly believes that when you empower the team around you, you hire and develop some of the best talent, and you surround yourself with successful players. Success will follow, whatever form you want that to be. So we have great teams. He's created an environment that allows us to be the best versions of ourselves. And it's what has made DMS a wonderful company. It's truly I want to call it an experiment. I think you've used that word before in leading through allowing people to be themselves, fun, loving, trusting, vulnerable environment. But it's created something I've never seen before in my career.
Yeah, and Bruce, coming back over to you, I've had the opportunity of talking to you about your background, and you have a hardscrabble background. I mean, share with us about that and how that's impacted your style.
Yeah, I came from a background of very modest means. Grew up in a small mill town south of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Was fortunate enough to have loving parents and a support network. We've all heard the phrase, it takes a village. And so when I think about all of my neighbors that I grew up around, and Mark, you were referencing how our childhoods were different. That was back when a neighbor could spank you if
Absolutely.
you caught you doing
Absolutely.
something wrong, and then they tell your parents what you did, and you get spanked again. And so growing up in that environment, and Scott used the words of lots of love but lots of accountability, I think is what has enabled me to be very blessed in my adult life, because the foundation was really a good one, notwithstanding the fact that I didn't have a lot of predetermined advantages growing up. Mm-hmm. And so if there was any message that I would share with folks is, do your schoolwork, obviously, get good grades, and dream big, because it doesn't matter where you're from. It's really about how dedicated are you to get to where you want to go.
And yet the business is headquartered in one of Detroit's challenging neighborhoods.
Yes, in the Brightmoor.
Brightmoor area. And give me your thoughts on that, of giving back.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love the fact that we're at a place where we can take people who, I would say on average, their experience when they're dealing with large organizations, be it the DMV or be it the government or a hospital, they tend to be discounted. Mm-hmm. And what we love at DMS is that you don't have to betray who you are to fit in and belong. We will lead you from where you are and love you from where you are. And so as Scott talked about, if you're looking for an opportunity to be the best, boldest, most authentic version of yourself, come to us. We want to help you become that. And things that we do, for example, to help, because we recognize that getting people to a better place either comes through educational or economic opportunities. And so even when it comes to education, we recognize that some people can't prepay for their tuition, and it creates a cash crunch. So we'll pay for your tuition ahead of time. Now, you got to get good grades in order for that equation to continue. And but we're happy to support it. And we've even done things like support folks who want to go get an HVAC certification. And we know that when they're done, they're not likely going to stay with us, but we don't care. We're helping them get to a better place. And our mantra is, when you leave, send one of your cousins or friends to come work with us. We just want to be helpful.
I'm not going to ask another question because I had to take a break, but I want to say this before we go to break. The reason I'm having this conversation is I think it's important that we highlight businesses that are making a difference in this city. And what we're going to do is to continue this conversation. 313-778-7600. Give us a call. You may be checking us out on iHeartRadio across the country, wherever you are. Give us a call. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the conference room with Mark S. Lee. We're talking to Mr. Bruce Smith and Scott Cieslak, and they're with DMS Manufacturing here in Detroit. Great supplier. They're doing great things. But we're taking a slightly different twist about the conversation of giving back. And it's my understanding, Bruce, that you have given people who have come in, hourly employees, for example, become managers through the progression of the organization. Talk about that.
Yeah, we have a heavy bias to promote from within. We do things like encourage our hourly employees to take assessments that we send out that give us an indicator on whether they're likely to have good leadership capabilities, because we're very deliberate about which leaders we pick. One of our mottos is everybody deserves a great boss, and if you work here, we're going to give you one. And so we lean into that. And statistically speaking, as you mentioned earlier, Mark, we've got 1,500 employees. Over the last 7 years, we've promoted 500 times within the organization. So that really means 1 out of 3 people has been promoted within DMS. And so we invest in training and have a bias towards helping everybody rise together.
And Scott, I want to piggyback on that comment because I know that you
are you going to ask me, is he a great boss? Do I have a great boss? Everybody deserves a great boss.
Please don't ask him that, Mark. Please don't.
I know the answer to that question. But I am going to ask you to piggyback on it in terms of internships. He talks about young people, and I know the organization, you get a number of interns through the organization through the summer months or throughout the course of the year. I know you had a couple from Eastern Michigan University, for example.
Yeah. Cameron recently was one of your students who came to us. It's amazing how many interns we actually have right now. We have 37 interns at DMS today. That's the largest number we've had. When I look to what we can do with those interns, they're all coming in hungry. They want to learn. They want to grow. They're all from all over, all different backgrounds. A lot of them from Michigan State. We've got Eastern Michigan. We've got U of M Dearborn, U of M Ann Arbor, Wayne State, and they're in all different functions. Some of we just had a plant tour last Monday, and as we were walking the line, the interns were coming up, showing us the presentation and showing us the technology they've added onto the line. These are some of the smartest kids we've come across, and we've actually pivoted a bit. At least I'll say in my organization, we're using interns throughout the entire school year. So COVID allowed us to figure out a different way to operate. We've got some of the students working the entire school year while they're in their dorms or remote with COVID, and allowing us to continue to use that talent and grow that talent. So when they are done with school, they have an opportunity to come work for us, or we've given them an opportunity to explore something on the outside.
Because you know how tough it is as a student. You're always in this doom loop of someone wants to employ you, but they go, you don't have any experience. And you're, well, give me a chance. And so we're really proud of the fact that you don't have to have a lot of experience. We remember when we were young and we're hungry for that first job and just wanted someone to bet on us. And so we're really happy to find these young students and bet on them. And by and large, they never let us down. They do excellent work.
But you know, the schools that you mentioned, every one of those institutions were local institutions.
Yep. And Kettering's another one.
Yep. Oh, yeah, Kettering.
I mean, let that sink in. You got 1,500 employees, Detroit, right? Mm-hmm. Headquartered in Detroit. and you're hiring young people from local institutions. And we've heard this story so much about the brain drain, right? Young people leaving to go to other states because of job opportunities. But yet you're giving them, Bruce and Scott, the opportunity to stay here, at least, like you said, get your foot in the door and get the experience. That's another way of making a difference inside of this city.
And we treat them well with the hopes that they'll come back and not leave the state. And so ultimately, if they decide to take employment elsewhere, we wish them well. We're happy for them. But we want to make that a hard choice for them. When they graduate, we want them to say, hey, we love it here at DMS. We're coming back.
And Scott, I'll sort this over to you first. What's the best advice you've ever received? You were in school and you're trying to find a job, right? Whatever the case might be. But what's the best advice you've ever received, and how's that impacted your professional mindset as well?
Oh, great question, Mark. It's actually advice I received in the past 5 years. It was September of 2019. I was sitting with Bruce, and this culture and creation of what we're doing here at DMS is something that was foreign to me as a business person. People first, love, vulnerability. It was something that was just not traditionally practiced or instilled into me. So 2019, Bruce looks at me and says, what type of leader do you want to be? As I was struggling through this, what type of person, how do you want to lead? And that was a soul-searching type question for me. It created an opportunity for me to figure out, how did I want to lead people? What was my expectation? What did I want to just be a demanding, forceful leader, or did I want to be a servant leader and practice a different way of working? He would have supported either way. There was a way that worked at DMS, but there was a way that my leadership style would have worked outside of other companies. Made a decision that I wanted to work in that servant leadership mentality. It's changed not only my way of operating as a business leader, but also as a father, husband, son, friend, and it's changed the way I operate as a professional. My decision making is now not coming from a place of fear.
Yeah.
It's very much an open place. Vulnerability is where we create these great and wonderful opportunities, but you've got to lean into it and accept it as a business leader, and then give that space for your team to be vulnerable, to have trust, to have fun, to be safe. The more safety there is in the environment to make decisions and even make mistakes, that's probably the most important way to learn. That creates that opportunity for new and creative adventures for the company, and that's where we are. It's great watching people just try new things and having, I'll say, step back. Bruce made a comment the other day. I'll joke. You said you want to be lazy. The idea here is let everybody else make the decisions. Let them try it.
Empowerment.
Yeah.
It's the notion of don't just run your department well. Try to transition to making sure your department is well run.
Yeah.
And that gives other people the space to participate. And that's what people want. They want autonomy, and they want to make a difference and have their voice be heard. And we spend a lot of time creating an environment that does that. And while the words we're using and the things we're talking about sound very soft side, there's a yin and a yang to this that's very important. Because ironically, when you create a safe environment, conflict is more frequent.
Yeah.
And so, I watch my children, they're siblings. They fight with each other more than they do their friends. Why? Because they're safe with their siblings.
Yeah.
And so they're free to express themselves. And we're creating an environment where there's that love, but that accountability means you have to have the courage to be candid and have discussions that can be scrappy. Mm-hmm. But it's not about me versus you. It's about let's go get the best idea. And that crucible needs to be tough in order for the best idea to survive.
And remember, Mark, I'm a CFO. I'm a classically trained finance professional. So when we're talking using these words, there's a return on investment for this. And I've seen that over the past 5 years of how we've become a better, stronger, more profitable business because of this practice during the entire COVID pandemic, during the supply chain crisis. We've continued to lean into those principles we created back in October of 2018, and the gifted and rich principles, which we drive a lot of our decision making and practices. It's a good business foundation for us. It sets up who we are and creates us to be a better organization now and in the future.
I want to give he has no idea I'm going to say this.
Oh, no.
No, not to either one of you, but this Craig Leak.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
And Craig, you guys, I know you all work hard. And the reason I'm going to acknowledge Craig as an example, because I saw it firsthand, is I called him up one day and I said, hey, man, would you come? And he and I went to college together, and we had to be in the same fraternity.
And he works at DMS.
And he works at DMS now. And here's the example of giving back, though, is I called him up. I said, man, would you? And I have guest speakers all the time. I don't have a problem finding guest speakers for my classes. And I said, man, would you come and just speak to my class? And it was a marketing class, I recall. But he came in and did a phenomenal job. And he was transparent. He was real. He talked about the power of the network to those kids. Now, a lot of times, and kind of you're a student, we see our professors, we lean back. I got to go to class, right? You look at me, camera, you see me leaning back. But then as he continued to talk, they leaned into the conversation. And they talked about DMS. And I think, Bruce, I'm coming back over to you, because my next question is employees like Craig and other employees that you have are giving back. What else makes the organization different?
I think you nailed it. There are 4 things that we really focus on, and we've touched on 2 of them. Actually, 3 we've touched on. Number 1, be a servant leader, which means subordinate what is myopically good for you and really look to help others, right? Which goes to our second value, which is enrich lives. And that really is about seeing what does someone else need and having their input on what would make your life better professionally and or personally. Thirdly is rise together. And that's the concept of this isn't just for one of us to benefit at the expense of others. We want a rising tide that lifts all boats. But that doesn't even include just the people in DMS. It also includes our customers. We want them to do well. And so as Scott, who's head of our commercial activities, he's got the mindset of how do I really create a win for our customers in every negotiation? It's not just us, because it's too easy to get locked into a zero-sum game where one person's got to win and one person's got to lose. So when we say rise together, we mean that for everyone, including our customers and our community. And then lastly is the notion of giving back. And so whether it's through time or donations of funds, we're always looking for opportunities to give back to the people around us.
When we come back, I'm going to take a quick break on 910 AM Superstation. You're in the conference room with Mark S. Lee, Bruce Smith, and Scott Cieslak, and we're talking about servant leadership from a corporate perspective. I want you to hang tight. We're going to talk about the future, looking ahead. Hang tight. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the conference room with Mark S. Lee for the final segment. We continue this conversation with Bruce Smith and Scott Cieslak. And Scott, I'm going to come over to you, talk about the house system.
Oh, the house system. This is a great system that creates everything from teamwork, team building, a lot of fun, and it also gives back to the community. Bruce got the idea from, I think, your kids' school, Country Day, right? Mm-hmm. And they have a house system set up similar to what you'd see at Harry Potter. There's 16 houses at DMS. All the salary teams are assigned a house when they arrive, and those houses are cross-functional. They're not just finance or sales or operations. You get a chance to interact with people you wouldn't normally interact with. We have a lot of team building and creative events like bocce ball, the Kentucky Derby, cornhole was just this past Thursday, and those events create bonds in a fun and challenging environment that the houses can earn points. That's wonderful. What we're also doing, though, more importantly, is Bruce has provided each house with a certain amount of financial opportunity, a certain amount of money each house can give back to charities financially. Wonderful. But you only get your points if you give back not only with dollars, but also with time. So each house has decided where they go in giving their money and where they give their time. So it's a very broad range of charities we support. The list is long. A few of them have been Boys and Girls Club, Cornerstone Academy, Image Youth Foundation, Fleece and Thank You, Leader Dogs for the Blind, Pure Heart, Life Remodeled, Midnight Golf, Children's Center has been a very large. We've been a large supporter of Children's Center. In fact, last year, even before the house system was set up, we their backpack drive. I think we did 400 backpacks in
school supplies
in a few hours. So. We were at the prom remodeled event with Life Remodeled. We helped with their 6-day cleanup. We've done a local cleanup in our community right there in Brightmoor immediately. So there's never a lack of demand for our help. So it's not just dollars. It's really getting out there, and so we let our teams decide where they think they can support their communities best. I mean, it varies. I mean, from handing out turkeys to being on the streets helping the homeless. It's whatever and everything.
Yeah, and let's talk about let's segue into the future.
Okay.
I mean, we're still talking about business, obviously. It's great you're giving back, you're making a difference within the community, but we also know these are challenging times. I mean, there have obviously been announcements recently in the automotive industry and things like that. Talk about the future of the industry, the future of DMS, and the most significant challenges that you see under your leadership moving forward, Bruce.
Yeah, when I think about the future, what I'm reminded of is a quote that I heard years ago that says there are two types of forecasters: those who don't know and those who don't know that they don't know. And so I don't want to pretend like we have a crystal ball that allows us to see the future, but there are a few things that we know. If you're waiting for the absence of change, you're probably waiting on a bus that isn't coming. This industry is experiencing and will experience more change over the next 10 to 20 years than it has in the past 100 years with, EVs, autonomous vehicles, you name it. There's going to be a reordering that happens in the industry, and there'll be winners and losers because of that. In the end, instead of us trying to be perfect with our planning, we really are focused on being perfect in our interactions with one another and betting on that we're going to be able to have the agility and the mindset and the wherewithal to adjust to what's happening while simultaneously making plans. We're not a team that doesn't plan. We just recognize, like my quote, that we don't know what we don't know. Mm-hmm. And so what's important for us is to stay cohesive, to stay agile, and to make sure we can adjust while we anticipate and understand where the industry dynamics are moving.
Okay, but you have employees, they read however we get our news nowadays, right? Some people they watch the TV news, they got their apps and their phones or whatever. They see headlines like that. How do you maintain that level of comfortable feeling, so to speak, continue to make them feel comfortable that we know the industry is changing. We see it in the newspapers. We see the headlines. Hell, give me cut to the chase. Is my job safe?
Yeah, I don't know how to guarantee comfort.
Yes, I got you.
And
yes.
so I love Brene Brown's quote that says, you can choose comfort or you can choose courage, but you can't choose both at the same time. So what we'll always be is courageous. Okay. The other thing we do is that we're really deliberate about making sure we don't overreact to shocks in the marketplace. You can see things that happen in the marketplace, and it can be easy to amplify those and create a lot of unnecessary fear and stress in your organization. And so we believe that as leaders, it's our job to be as big of a buffer as possible. I remember as a kid, one year at Christmas, the church showed up with groceries at my house. And I thought, we must be poor. This isn't normal for people to show up bringing you groceries. And while I recognized that there was a need there being fulfilled from the outside because we couldn't do it internally, I also marveled in that moment at my mother's ability to insulate me from it, that I didn't even realize I was poor until these people showed up. And
good point.
Similar to my mother, we as a leadership team are looking to just create a buffer so that when there are outside external factors that can create fear, we don't want to just amplify or pass that straight through to our team. We just say, stay focused on the things that are going to make us better, stay focused on what we can control, and don't worry about the external environment.
And Scott, I want to clarify, I want to give you a proper introduction. You're Executive Vice President, right, of the organization, and focus primarily on sales and marketing.
Sales, purchasing, strategy, yep. And I'm dual hat right now. I got a little bit of CFO hat I haven't quite put down yet.
He officially handed that over to me, but he didn't like who he handed it to.
I just want to make sure we give you a proper level of respect as well.
Thank you.
And as we wrap up, you're always looking to hire people?
Yes, we're selectively hiring folks. We're always looking to hire hourly folks. We have turnover like most organizations with the labor market being as tight as it is. And so I would say to anybody who's listening, Right? If your boss is a mess and always inducing stress, come to DMS and experience success. When I retire, I'm going to be a rapper. Thank you very much.
And next, you can check him out at the LCA with fresh Dougie Dog, whatever. Well, I want to, you just got even in 30 seconds or less, anything you want to say in closing from your perspective, whatever you want to share.
Mark, thank you for the opportunity here to let us speak, and also thank you for the coaching you've been providing to me the past 6 months.
Same
it's
here.
Been wonderful,
You've been
man.
coaching me as well, and it's been infinitely valuable. You're a wise man beyond your years.
Like we said before, man, my goal is to help people. And just like you're giving back, just like you're giving back to the community, man, Detroit appreciates you. This story needs to be highlighted. It needs to be told beyond Brightmoor. It needs to be told across 140 square miles, across the entire Wayne County, Oakland, the entire metropolitan area, across the state, and quite frankly, across the country. Because you two, the entire organization, is making a difference. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Appreciate your time.
This is why I love doing this show. Information, great guests. And I just want you to continue to tune in. I appreciate the support that we get each and every single week. 5 years in August will be the conference room. 5 years we've been doing this. And, of course, the weekly wrap-up, we've been doing that since January. But I want you all to go out and make it a great day. Make it a great week. And I will check you out next weekend for the weekly wrap-up and also in the conference room. And as always, in closing, we are